A woman dressed simply walks into a luxury car showroom and is immediately kicked out for not being the right kind of customer. But what they didn't know was that she had just bought the entire company. This isn't just a plot twist. It's a wake-up call for every business that judges people by appearances. Stay until the end of the video because you'll want to see how she flipped the entire system without raising her voice. Like and subscribe if you believe respect doesn't require a brand, just the right character. Hi everyone. Welcome to Alive Stories. Today's story is about car dealership manager kicks out a simple woman, unaware she is the new owner. Let's get started. An old silver sedan quietly pulled into the edge of the parking lot at Silverline Motors, one of the most prestigious luxury car dealerships in the northern part of the city. This wasn't the kind of place people showed up looking ordinary. This was the land of tailored suits, diamond-studded watches, and designer sunglasses. A place where a receptionist called you by name before you even stepped through the door. But the woman stepping out of that car didn't look like a Target customer. She wore a faded gray coat, frayed jeans, worn-out sneakers, and a cloth shoulder bag. Her hair was streaked with gray, but her eyes were sharp. No latest model phone, no makeup, no expensive perfume. Her name was May Collins. She walked straight into the showroom, the glass door whooshing open with precision. Inside, the marble floors gleamed, reflecting rows of luxury vehicles, each one a bold statement of wealth. Three employees standing near the reception counter paused mid-conversation. One of them, a man with gelled hair and a charcoal suit, approached. His name was Derek Shaw, regional sales manager, famous for closing in 15 minutes and sizing up customers with a single glance. He looked May up and down, making no effort to hide it. "Excuse me," he cut in just as May began to speak. "Are you looking for the used car section?" May looked him straight in the eye. "I'm looking for a hybrid sports model, like that one." She pointed to a sleek black coupe, powerful, refined. Derek gave a soft chuckle, the kind anyone who's ever been poor knows all too well. "That model is already scheduled for a private showing, and typically, we only allow customers to touch the vehicles after an appointment and financial verification." A female employee nearby furrowed her brows slightly, but said nothing. "I just want to see the interior," May said, her voice steady and calm. "I understand," Derek replied, tilting his head as if correcting her manners. "But with vehicles in this class, touching without authorization is inappropriate. Perhaps you'd be more interested in our standard sedans. We just received a new batch." May said nothing. She stared at the car for a long second, then turned back to him, looked deeper, then nodded. "Then I won't touch it." "Good," Derek replied. "We always strive to maintain the image our customers expect." "What kind of image?" May asked, softly. Derek smiled but gave no answer. Instead, he gestured vaguely with his hand, as if painting an invisible silhouette polished. Upscale, expensive, and definitely not the woman standing before him. A beat passed. Two other employees stepped closer, pretending to check in with Derek, though their eyes still darted toward May, part annoyance, part curiosity. "Honestly," Derek added in a low voice, just for her to hear, "we have certain screening policies for walk-ins, especially those who don't align with our brand image." May squinted. "What are you implying?" "I'm not implying. I'm just trying to save you time. You can see for yourself. Not everyone fits Silverline." And with that, he turned and nodded at the receptionist. "Could you help direct this guest to the pre-owned section?" Please. May stood there for a few seconds, surrounded by polished stone floors and million-dollar paint jobs. No one in that room knew who she was. No one knew that inside the pocket of her old coat was a signed acquisition agreement finalizing the buyout of the entire Silverline Motors chain, completed 2 weeks ago through her parent company, a company founded and run by May herself. No one knew the woman they had just dismissed was now the rightful owner of every single car in that showroom, of the entire staff, of the customer database Derek once prided himself on managing. May didn't argue. She didn't need to. She simply nodded. "Thanks for pointing me in the right direction," and walked away, step by quiet step, her worn soles tapping gently against the cold stone floor. Just before she passed through the automatic doors, she stopped, glanced back at the black coupe, then at Derek. Derek didn't see her. He was hunched over his desk, checking his calendar, preparing to greet a real VIP later that afternoon. Outside, the sun was still beating down. May opened her car door and sat behind the wheel. She pulled out a notebook and wrote a short line, Sunville Showroom, stratification level extreme. Manager did not check ID, prejudice detected before first sentence. She closed the notebook and started the engine. In the rearview mirror, the silhouette of Silverline Motors faded behind her. The next day, the entire Silverline system received a notice: CCD Holdings has officially completed the acquisition. All managerial staff are required to attend a mandatory cultural retraining session next week. No one knew the C in CD stood for Collins. No one at the Sunville showroom knew that in just a few days. The woman they wouldn't let touch a door handle would stand at the front of the room and ask them to explain the service culture they believed was standard. May wasn't here for revenge. May was here for change. And she knew every major shift begins with something small. Like a woman refused a test drive, now holding the power to decide who gets to stay. May Collins never set foot in Harvard. Not because she wasn't capable, but because she never needed to. Born and raised in a small town in Arkansas, May was the youngest of four. Her mother cleaned floors at the local hospital. Her father, a war veteran, drove long-haul trucks. They weren't destitute, but they weren't comfortable either. Every purchase was weighed like an investment in survival. May was bright, but quiet. She loved numbers, obsessed over data, and paid close attention to the things others overlooked. Tiny discrepancies, forgotten line items, the way a single number on a balance sheet could reveal the soul of a business. While her friends went off to big universities, May stayed close to home and studied applied mathematics at a local community college. After graduating, she became a high school math teacher, later developing personal finance seminars for teens. She lived simply, no social media, no headlines. But everyone who studied under her remembered one thing: Ms. Collins didn't just teach math. She taught you how to measure your worth. When May turned 45, her life changed. Her husband, a civil engineer, was killed in a car accident. She was left with two daughters, a modest life insurance payout, and a void no words could name. She quit teaching, retreated to a small house by the lake, and started again, not to escape, but to continue. May spent 2 years studying investment, not through TikTok or YouTube, but through reports from major funds and books written by quiet investors. She wasn't chasing quick returns. She learned to read between the lines, to study a company's reports and see what kind of person was actually running it. And most importantly, she found a blind spot few others cared to notice: companies with rotting internal cultures masked by polished exteriors. In her third year, May founded Greenwell Partners, a small, highly selective investment firm. They only backed brands with the potential to rebuild culture from within, places with solid revenue but broken service, where staff filtered customers by appearance, where human dignity was often buried beneath luxury labels and platinum business cards. Greenwell didn't advertise. May never gave interviews. During acquisitions, she delegated signatures to attorneys and CFOs. Her name was rarely mentioned, and that was intentional. Within 5 years, May and her team had quietly turned around 7 businesses, a boutique hotel chain, an upscale retail system, and 3 independent car dealerships. At every site, May visited in person, never revealing who she was, to see firsthand how staff treated people who didn't look rich enough. Silverline Motors wasn't her biggest deal, but it was personal. 10 years earlier, May had been denied there while taking her daughter to look at cars, mocked by staff for wearing old khakis and asking for prices in cash. She never forgot that feeling, not because of the insult, but because of the look in her daughter's eyes when someone told her she didn't have the right to dream. Years later, when Silverline Motors put up strategic shares for sale after years of losses and shrinking market share, May didn't hesitate. She kept her name hidden behind a holding entity, CD Group. She negotiated for 5 months and secured 61% of the company, its assets, brand, and full operational control. Only after the deal closed did she send her first message. Not to the media, but to every branch manager. We won't change the signage, but we will change how you see your customers. At Sunville, the showroom most praised for its brand prestige, May wanted to see things for herself. No one recognized her, and they behaved exactly as she expected that night. After being turned away from the showroom, May sat in her small lakeside home. The room was modest, an old wooden desk, a first-generation coffee maker, a reading lamp. She opened her laptop and pulled up a file titled Sunville Surface Culture Assessment. She began typing. Clear class-based bias. Manager did not request ID, judge solely on clothing. Exclusionary language doesn't align with brand image. Staff did not intervene or react. Overall toxic culture risk score, 8 out of 10. She saved the file, didn't wait for morning, and scheduled an all-staff meeting for 72 hours later. No one at Silverline knew who May Collins was. All they knew was that CD Group was the new owner, but they were about to find out. And this time, May hadn't come to ask for a price sheet. She came to reprice the value of people inside a business once considered too luxurious to be called out. 3 days after the incident at Sunville, May showed up at another Silverline Motors branch, Brookhaven, located nearly 60 miles away. Same gray coat, same faded jeans, same worn sneakers and small canvas bag. Still no makeup, no business card, no introduction. The only thing different was the way she was received. As soon as she walked into the showroom, a young employee, his name tag read Jason Nguyen, greeted her with a warm, genuine smile. He didn't glance at her skin, didn't hesitate for even a second to assess her clothes. Good morning, welcome to Silverline Motors Brookhaven. Are you interested in sedans, SUVs, or maybe something sportier today? May smiled. Could I take a look at the hybrid coupe? I'm looking for something powerful but energy efficient. Excellent choice. We have a great model for you. Right this way. No questions about appointments. No suggestion to check the used section. No suspicious looks. Jason opened the car door for May and asked if she'd like to sit inside. He walked her through the voice control system, proximity sensors, digital dashboard, and driving modes. Every detail was shared with care, like she was the only customer in the showroom that morning. After about 15 minutes, Mo stood up and gave a small nod. Thank you. That was excellent service, Jason smiled. Take your time browsing. I'll be nearby if you need anything. May walked around a bit more. No one stared. No one smirked. A staff member from the coffee station even offered her a small iced espresso and asked if she needed water. The atmosphere at Brookhaven was light, unforced, like a place built to serve people, not just their net worth. May took careful notes. She stayed for 2 hours, then quietly left, leaving behind no name, no card, no signal of who she was. Jason had no idea the ordinary woman he'd just helped was the owner about to restructure the entire Silverline system. But he had shown May exactly what she was measuring for service that doesn't depend on a wallet. That afternoon, in her industrial district office on the south side of the city, May opened a spreadsheet titled Silverline Motors, branch level bias assessment column, A, branch name column B, initial greeting column C, product knowledge column D, class discrimination behavior column, post-visit reassessment. Score Sunville, 2 out of 10. Brookhaven, 9 out of 10, under Brookhaven. May type staff Jason N. Did not judge based on appearance. Delivered thorough product info. No behavioral indicators of customer filtering. At the same time in Sunville, Derek Shaw was in a meeting with 2 assistant managers discussing a new marketing campaign. He had no idea that elsewhere. A behavioral report, with his name featured prominently, was being submitted to the regional director ahead of a surprise executive meeting. The next day, May visited a third location, Ridgewood. This time, no disguise. She wore a tailored brown suit, cream blouse, and a small CD Group pin on her lapel. The receptionist welcomed her like a corporate representative. May didn't say who she was, but she asked pointed questions. Have you ever turned someone away just because they didn't look right? What's your approach when a walk-in has no appointment? Which customer made you most proud and why? Some answers pleased her, others didn't. She wrote everything down. May wasn't there to judge individuals. She was there to find the root. What made Brookhaven so different from Sunville? The answer was clear. Not the policies, not the pay, not the training modules, but the manager. At Brookhaven, Jason had one rule: treat everyone like they might buy the best car here, unless they prove otherwise. At Sunville, Derek told new hires, if they don't look like VIPs, don't waste time. Those personal beliefs became culture. One branch was warm, the other cold. One sold cars to people, the other sold status. That evening, May emailed Silverline's regional board with a subject line system-wide meeting request, internal culture audit by branch. No explanation, no alarm, but the meeting was scheduled immediately because when CD Group sent a directive, people listened. The next morning at Sunville HQ, staff began whispering about a surprise emergency meeting with corporate. Derek checked the calendar, furrowed his brow. Probably about comp plan changes. He had no idea that among the materials being forwarded to the regional board was an audio clip from the showroom security system. Of his own voice, these broke folks come in with hoodies. I just send them straight to used cars. Gotta protect the brand image. The file had been uploaded by May, not for punishment, but to make a point. The problem isn't invisible. It lives in the very words people think no one hears. At 7:00 a.m. the following day, May stepped into the regional meeting room, a glass-walled space with a long conference table and leather chairs. In her hand was a thick report titled Customer Culture Audit, confidential. An hour later, branch directors began filing in. Derek was the last to arrive. He paused when he saw May, brows furrowed. Then he took a seat. May said nothing, not yet, because today, she didn't need to remind them who she was. Today, the truth would speak for itself. The regional conference room on the 9th floor of Silverline's headquarters was unusually full that morning. Every branch manager was required to attend. No absences, no proxies. The subject line on the summons was simple operational review and internal culture restructuring. No further explanation. Derek Shaw walked in, latte in hand, sipping as he scanned the room. He greeted a few colleagues, clapped one on the shoulder, let out a casual whistle, confident, as always. To him, a meeting on culture usually meant HR would read through some slides and remind everyone to uphold the brand. He took a seat near the center of the table, but before he could sit, he froze. At the head of the table, in the seat reserved for executive leadership, sat the woman he had escorted out of the showroom just days earlier. May Collins, no worn coat, no sneakers. She wore a pale gray suit, crisp white blouse buttoned to the top, her silver hair neatly pulled back. In front of her, a thick binder, tabbed with orange-labeled dividers. No one said a word, but everyone felt her presence. Derek hesitated mid-step, then recovered. Forced a grin. Didn't know we had VIP guests today. May looked up, her eyes locked on his. She said nothing. A manager near the back leaned over and whispered, I think she's with corporate. Not sure her title. But we got an email yesterday asking for detailed customer behavior reports. The air in the room grew dense. At exactly 8:01, Vincent, the regional director, entered, navy suit, name badge pinned, his expression serious, eyes sweeping across the room. Thank you all for being on time. Today's meeting is not business as usual, and I won't waste words. He paused, then turned slightly. Please welcome Ms. May Collins, managing partner at CD Group and lead strategic investor, who now owns 61% of Silverline Motors following the recent restructuring. Silence. Derek didn't move. His hand rested on the table, but his fingers curled slightly. A woman no one checked, no one noticed, was now the majority owner. And the same woman he had dismissed with a smirk. Vincent continued, Ms. Collins has requested a full system audit. By board agreement, she holds full authority during this phase of restructuring. May stood. Her voice wasn't loud, but every word hit with clarity. I won't speak long. I just want you to watch a short video. She clicked a remote. The screen lit up. Audio played, recorded from the Sunville showroom's security camera. Who do you think you are? We don't sell to people in hoodies here. If I served customers like that, Silverline's brand would tank. You can tell they can't afford it just by looking. The clip ended. Silence. May turned back to the room. I visited 3 showrooms. One treated me like I was invisible. One treated me like a guest. And one treated me like I was brand contamination. She paused. No one coughed. No one moved. I'm not here for apologies. I'm not here for justifications. I'm here to see clearly who in this room is building long-term value and who is quietly destroying it with their own prejudice. She turned to Derek. I came to Sunville dressed simply, and you responded like someone who only sees logos, never people. Derek opened his mouth, but nothing came out. May continued, I'm not here to humiliate anyone. I'm here to understand what this system truly believes. And what I've found is that part of it is rotting from within. Still, no one moved. May lowered her hand slightly. Her tone softened. I'm not firing you today, Derek, but I am removing your direct oversight of the Sunville branch temporarily. All cultural operations will be reviewed by an independent team. Vincent nodded to confirm. Derek gave a stiff nod back. There was nothing left to say. This isn't about punishment. May concluded, it's about principle. Because if a system filters customers by their coat, it will eventually lose the ones who matter most. She stepped back from the table, quietly. The room didn't erupt, but something shifted, a feeling hard to name, between discomfort, fear, and quiet relief. Because maybe, finally, someone had dared to say what needed to be said. 2 days after the regional meeting, the Sunville branch was placed under a special service conduct supervision. The glass walls still gleamed. The cars were still polished, but something in the air had changed. Derek Shaw was no longer behind the control desk. He hadn't been fired, not yet, but his access to internal management systems was temporarily revoked. All customer interactions were monitored by a special review team, led by Jason Nguyen, the same employee who had warmly welcomed May at Brookhaven. No one publicly called it a punishment, but everyone understood it was a redefinition of power. At Silverline's central conference room, May Collins returned, not with binders or legal documents, but with a whiteboard. On it, she wrote 3 lines. No one is excluded for how they look. No one has the right to price a person by appearance. If you must choose between the wealthy and the kind, choose the kind. May turned around and looked straight at Silverline's middle management team. No one could avoid her eyes. I'm not asking you to be perfect, she said. I'm asking you to understand what is no longer acceptable. Someone raised a hand. Will we be expected to meet sales targets even with customers who don't seem promising? May nodded, unfazed. Pressure will always exist, but that is never an excuse to dismiss someone you haven't even let finish their first sentence. I've been looked down on. I've been the poor woman walking into a place where I was told I didn't belong. And I know that kind of wound never really leaves. No applause, no nervous laughter, none was needed. May continued, I'm not here to leak footage. I'm not going to stir headlines or chase clicks because I don't believe in revenge. I believe in fair structures. And if this company is to survive, it must reevaluate not just its paychecks, but its principles. Days later, Silverline released an internal charter, retraining all managers on implicit bias and service-based discrimination, launching an anonymous customer feedback task force, welcoming walk-in clients with no appearance-based conditions, banning all suggestions that clients don't fit the brand, revising KPIs to include a respect and service index, not just sales numbers. There were no press releases, no billboards. And for May, that was the win. Because real justice doesn't need to be shouted. Justice is when someone who was dismissed yesterday walks into the same space tomorrow and is invited to sit down like they've always belonged. 1 week later, Derek emailed May. His first line read, I get it now. There were no excuses, just a reflection. of what he had learned when power was taken out of his hands. May replied with one line, knowing you were wrong is easy. Choosing to change, that's what makes you an adult. At Brookhaven, Jason was promoted to Regional Service Advisor. It wasn't a big title, but it carried big impact. His branch would now shape training across the network. In his first meeting with the area sales team, he said, if we refuse to welcome someone because of how they dress, then we're the ones unfit to serve them. And the room fell silent, in the best way. At Sunville, the customer area was renovated. The front desk removed the sign that once read appointment required for service. One afternoon, a middle-aged man in sandals, shorts, and a baseball cap walked in. He was served coffee. He test drove a hybrid sedan. No one glanced sideways. No one laughed. Elena, the receptionist who once avoided eye contact with May, was now the new head of customer experience. She had been the first to stand up in a staff meeting, issue a public apology, and ask to start over. May said yes, not out of pity, but because she believed those who have been wrong when they awaken can become the ones who change most deeply. Silverline Motors was no longer just a showroom that sold cars. It had become a space that tested the inner values of both the buyer and the one serving them. And May didn't need to be recognized. She only needed one thing that someday, someone else, wearing an old coat, carrying a canvas bag, would walk through those same doors and be greeted with a smile that said, "You belong here." It was Friday morning, and the Silverline Motors showroom at Sunville opened earlier than usual. By the entrance, a blackboard displayed a handwritten message in white chalk. Everyone is welcome. No appointment, no luxury watch required, no marketing slogan, no PR campaign, just an honest declaration. Elena, the same receptionist who once avoided eye contact with May, who once stayed silent as Derek turned away customers who didn't fit the image, now stood tall behind the front desk. Pinned to her chest, Elena Morris, head of customer experience. She had changed, not through apology, but through daily, repeated action. Around 10 a.m., a new visitor walked in, a young man, early 20s, worn-out t-shirt, slightly torn cargo pants, canvas backpack in one hand, a paper coffee cup in the other. His hair was dyed pale blue, messy like he'd just removed a helmet. A tattoo of a mythical bird stretched across his left forearm. He walked slowly, half eager, half unsure. "Hi there." Elena stepped forward, calm smile in place. "What brings you in today?" "Looking at sedans, SUVs, sports." The young man paused, looked around. I'm just browsing, if that's okay. I'm not really buying anything." Elena didn't cut him off, didn't flinch. Even better. No pressure. If a car catches your eye, we'll explore it together. You don't need to buy something to have a real experience. Right? He looked up, eyes wide. "Really, because I got kicked out somewhere else. They thought I was a delivery guy." Elena smiled softly. "Not here. Let's start with our electric coupe. Feels like a match for someone creative." He didn't say much after that, but his steps felt different than when he first walked in. From the second floor office, where the observation room overlooked the floor, May Collins stood watching. No one knew she was there. She didn't need them to. Through the glass, she watched Elena speaking to the young man. Another staff member passed, offered a friendly nod. No judgmental glances, no smirking smiles. May nodded, too, quietly. That evening, in the internal log, Elena wrote assisted a young customer today, dressed rough, but deeply knowledgeable about cars. Test drove 2 models, might return with friends, didn't buy today, but left a strong impression. Grateful to the team for protecting the new culture. May didn't edit a word. She just added one line. "Good, keep going. People don't remember showrooms for the cars. They remember how they were seen." A month later, Silverline was invited to speak at an auto industry conference about service culture transformation. Not the CEO, not the PR rep. It was Elena. On a small wooden stage at the convention hall, her voice trembled slightly, but it was real. "I once looked at an older woman in a worn coat and thought, she probably almost can't afford anything here. But later I learned she was the person paying my salary, directly or not. Kindness isn't a quote on a wall. It's how you say hello to someone not wearing a suit. The crowd applauded, not because the speech was perfect, but because everyone in the room had been wrong once. Months passed. Silverline didn't see a spike in car sales, but customer satisfaction soared, up 40%. Five-star reviews stopped mentioning cars. They talked about staff, about feeling seen without being sized up, about being served without being scanned by their wallet. Jason, now regional director of service, texted May, I think, "We're starting to build a place where people don't feel small just for walking in." May replied with "in one sentence, we're not starting. We're continuing." At the back parking lot of Brookhaven one weekend, May sat in her old silver sedan, watching the sunset reflected off the showroom's roof. She didn't plan to stay long, didn't need to be remembered, didn't need her photo on a wall. She just needed to know one thing, that if tomorrow a young woman in an old hoodie walked through those same doors carrying nothing but a bold idea, she wouldn't be dismissed at first glance. She'd be heard. And maybe, just maybe, she'd be the one to change the system. Like May once did. If May Collins' story made you pause, maybe in anger, in recognition, or in shame, that's exactly the point. Discrimination doesn't always come with shouting. Sometimes it comes with a smile and a closed door, but its damage is just as real and just as personal. May didn't need to yell. She didn't need to prove herself. She let the truth walk into the room and made the system look itself in the mirror. If you believe respect shouldn't be reserved for the well-dressed, the well-known, or the wealthy, share this story. Let it reach someone who needs to remember the person they overlooked today may be the one writing their paycheck tomorrow. Stand up when someone's being sidelined, whether it's in a dealership, a job interview, or a classroom. Because real change doesn't wait for permission. It starts with a voice, with a choice, with someone like you hitting share and saying no, not here, not anymore. Thank you for watching. See you in the next story. And until then, stay kind, stay sharp, and never underestimate the quiet ones.